Well, hello, and thank you for joining me for another Alex on Tech and iTWire TV interview. I'm joined today by Dhruv Dhumatkar. He is the Director of Solutions Engineering at NetApp. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you. Dhruv, NetApp started in 1992. So, what was it offering when it launched, and what products and services has that grown into today?
Well, yes, NetApp did start in 1992. So next year we're 30 years old. It's very exciting. And in Australia, we're 21 years old. And I've been around for a lot of that time. And there's been a tremendous amount of change in that time from the initial product offering, which was a product called the FAS Server 400. And essentially, it was a NFS server for Unix machines. Mm-hmm. And the unique thing about that product was it had the backup capability fully integrated into the appliance, and it became wildly successful with higher education and research organizations primarily. And then very quickly, as we found success, we formed a partnership with Microsoft in '96. That allowed us to integrate SMB file sharing with the product, so you could share Unix and Windows files between those two technologies. And then not long after that, as the tech giants of the time began developing shared block storage, we evolved that core offering to provide what we refer to as unified storage. So for block for applications like Oracle. And then file as well. And that concept became very popular. The consolidation and unified capability became very popular as we saw server consolidation with VMware ESX right through the 2000s. And then the interesting thing about that technology was at the time it was created, everything was done in software. And in the early 90s, it was what was in vogue was a combination of software and hardware, just bespoke hardware being created. And then you fast forward to the 2020s when it's all software defined. It's interesting to see how we've been able to ride these various waves of technology. For example, faster networks, faster Ethernet networks, the advent of all flash in the server and in storage. And this software-defined model has allowed us to port the technology as these new waves came through with largely no change in the code. And then in the last decade or so, we've dedicated an enormous amount of R&D effort to help us accelerate and optimize people's journey to the hybrid cloud. And that's not only porting our core capability on tap into the hyperscalers, but also building out some robust monitoring and analytics platform that can give the C-suite an entire view of hybrid cloud real estate. As we all know, that the decision around technology investments and utilize clouds has now become a boardroom and C-level discussion as businesses look to use technology to accelerate their competitive advantage.
Yeah, well, the sophistication and maturity of technology. I mean, it was a dream to have all flash storage. Flash didn't exist when we were when we were kids, and now the world the kids are born into today is just unbelievable. And and what's coming in the next decade or two is going to be take science fiction to the next level. But ONTAP is obviously the foundation for the hybrid cloud from NetApp. So what is NetApp's definition of how modern hybrid cloud and on-prem resources are very mature and sophisticated today?
Yeah, well, look, at NetApp, we look at public cloud services such as Azure as a technology platform where services such as compute and network and storage are made available to the public via an internet. And each cloud provider offers a slightly different architecture and use cases to suit different industries and requirements. And then when we look at a private cloud, it's quite similar to a public cloud where the ease of access and ease of use is equivalent to the public cloud, but those resources are delivered from an internal platform. And then if you look at as an extension of that, a hybrid cloud is a setup where an organization employs a combination of private and public clouds. And that would, beg the question, why would you do that? Why would you use 2 clouds or 3 clouds? Why not just use one? And the answer to that is pretty simple. It's a choice of services. Different clouds provide different services. There's a diversity in terms of tapping into technologies developed by Amazon and Google and Microsoft. And then, of course, there's the resiliency. So each cloud allows you to deploy a subset of your workloads, and you're not dependent on one such cloud for availability and resiliency. Now, each cloud, as I said before, has solved for scale and capability, and they've done that with their own proprietary architecture that allows them to provide service levels to users. But the one thing that they haven't solved for in this hybrid model is the concept of data anywhere, anytime. And organizations are gaining efficiencies by re-architecting legacy apps using modern cloud native technologies such as containerization. But we've yet to see them solve the need for an enterprise-grade data services that allows a customer to move data in and out of a cloud quickly as they need to. And that's where ONTAP has actually become the technology of choice for private and public clouds, because it provides a universal data management platform regardless of the cloud that you're in.
Yeah, well, I mean, as you're talking about multiple clouds and why people use them, reminds me of the old adage, don't keep all your eggs in the one basket. But it sounds like ONTAP software allows you to treat all those multiple all those clouds. It's like having multiple baskets, virtual baskets as the one basket, but they're all separate. But they're all together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And now, you're allowed, the promise is to be able to move your data set into the right cloud for the right services at the right time. And I think as time goes on, that will become a greater need for organizations, especially post-pandemic.
Absolutely. And just redundancy. I mean, you can't rely on one service. You've got to spread it out. It's just, it's like diversifying your portfolio. It's just
exactly.
Common sense.
I think diversity and resilience is a key concept in your classic data center architecture. Why not extend that to a multi-cloud architecture?
Yeah. Well, as I say, diversity is strength. Here's a great example. Now, I always, when I hear about digital transformation and people moving to the cloud, I often sort of think this, for some companies, this isn't their first rodeo. They tried to do some sort of digital transformation a few years ago, but time moves on, technologies get much more mature, and people must be doing sort of, re-transforming from an old system into a new system. But this also makes me think, there must still be companies out there who haven't moved to the cloud at all. So how many companies are still yet to migrate to the cloud? How many of these companies are upgrading either older cloud infrastructure to more powerful platforms, or just doing it for the first time and they've survived all this time without really making this incredible change?
Well, I would say that most companies have done something in the cloud, and they might not necessarily be using an infrastructure as a service setup whereby you're only using virtual machines or services. They might be using a software as a service type setup there. But what I can say is that there is certainly a steady march of customers across all industries, across a range of use cases going to cloud. I'd say combined, the three big players there, Amazon, Microsoft, and Google, have hit a run rate of $180 billion. And there's nothing to indicate that will slow as we march on to 2022. And, as we enter the post-pandemic era, our prediction at Australia's the organization's default architecture will be hybrid cloud, with somewhere in the vicinity of 40 to 50% adopting a hybrid multi-cloud strategy.
Now, from a business perspective, what can organizations do better on cloud adoption?
Well, I've said that cloud is the engine for business growth. And then the fuel for that is data. Data is the fuel for that growth. And we've had this perspective at NetApp for many years, and analysts are just starting to catch up onto that now, in that a solid cloud strategy is driven from business requirements. but data right now is treated as an afterthought. And in the future, what we see is that the organizations that are really winning are using a data-driven technique to gain insights into their own customers, their market, and their competitors. And so to answer your question, what should organizations do more of or better? They should put more energy into a comprehensive data strategy as they do into a cloud strategy. And the benefit of that is both internally and externally, in that it allows you to pursue initiatives such as workforce and skills development, analyze your customer sentiment, and various other initiatives to fuel business growth.
Yeah, it's amazing how humans sort of sometimes are a bit slow on the uptake. I mean, there's that famous saying that says, 50% of advertising is wasted, but I just don't know which 50%. And that's from like 100 years ago, before we really had the data mining capabilities that we have today. I mean, data can deliver so many insights and can give you so many advantages over competitors who aren't doing the same sort of thing, that, I mean, we take this amount of data for granted. We're data mining ourselves with our phones and our watches. I mean, it's amazing to think that businesses are only still, some of them are still just getting this concept now. So I guess the question is, what do leadership teams need to better consider with cloud adoption planning and decisions that they clearly aren't doing properly now?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Well, I think digital is as much as about people as it is about technology. So digital literacy is very important, and we're seeing a lot of C-suite individuals talk to digital literacy for their workforce being as important as the cloud strategy and the journey itself. And here at NetApp, we're no different. We're a high technology vendor. You'd expect us to be very, very savvy with technology, but we're also dealing with this concept of workforce reskilling. So as we see, as we progress into the 2020s, we'll see the millennial generation, a highly technology savvy generation, come into the workforce, but we will also need to focus our efforts on reskilling the existing workforce so that they're able to keep up with the time as organizations adopt digital tools to do business and engage their customers. And then the second thing I would say is the organizations that are really winning are not pursuing a boil the ocean mentality with regard to application migration into cloud or application modernization. They're picking a few small bets and they're focusing all of their efforts on those small bets, and that's paying off for them. And with that success, they're able to come back and address another set of applications or business processes to modernize using cloud technologies, both private and public.
You eat the elephant one bite at a time.
Absolutely.
Now, you also just announced the simplification and the speeding up of digital transformation for customers through deep industry-leading public cloud relationships. And so we already mentioned, Azure, Amazon, and Google Cloud as your preferred cloud partners. So can you please tell us a bit more about your Hyperscaler strategy?
Yeah, this is one of the most exciting things about being at NetApp is we've always felt that the value in cloud is accelerated by bringing the data to the service. And what we did early on, probably going on 10 years ago, is we pioneered this concept of private storage with the Hyperscaler, where we connected physical storage systems via a very low latency link to the cloud services, the cloud compute. And we had some early adopter customers here in Australia, and that proved extremely beneficial for them. It was widely successful. And as we've progressed through, in the 2010s, we've evolved that technology and fully integrated it in software into the Hyperscaler's architecture. So what does that mean? That means that exactly as you provision VMs and services at the push of a button using the marketplaces of these Hyperscalers, you now provision an enterprise data management plane within the Hyperscaler. And why is that important? Well, because a cloud operating model of the future, you're really clicking a button to get an outcome. You don't really want to manage physical assets. You just really want to click a button and you get the outcome. So you get a performance profile, and you get a capacity profile, and you're up and away for whatever application you're developing or redeveloping or refining. And that's what we mean by these deep industry partnerships. It's a combination of their technology and NetApp technology to develop, to deliver a full outcome to the customer.
So we talked about, the post-pandemic world. We're not quite there yet, unfortunately. But what were the learnings from the ongoing digital acceleration from the ongoing virus pandemic still causing havoc around the world?
Well, the virus pandemic, I think there's two ways to look at it. The primary view that you and I have been exposed to is that the illness and the effect on people's health. Here in Australia, the extended lockdowns that we've dealt with, and we're seeing that play out as we continue on through towards the end of 2021. But an alternate view, perhaps not as well covered, is the pandemic's effect on digital initiatives. In Australia, 2/3 of all organisations, including government organisations, say that they have increased their budgets for technology and technology spend, and 2/3 of organisations have actually accelerated project timelines for modernising applications and adopting cloud because of COVID. And where is that money being spent? Well, it's spent on modernising ways of working for employees, the classic work from home. It's also in developing new digital touch points for customers to interact with organizations without needing to come to a bricks and mortar area. It's building resiliency within their technology deployments so that they can continue to adapt as we navigate through the pandemic. So what we've learned is when you remove the company politics and the resistance to change and you go into survival mode, a lot can get done. And so post-pandemic, as we go into 2022 and beyond, globally, what we'll see is organizations proceed post-haste in completing digital projects and modernizing existing applications.
Yeah, well, it makes sense. I mean, there's no time like the present. There's a famous saying that says a hanging concentrates the mind. Well, COVID was like a global hanging, and the mind's got very concentrated, and it's amazing what can be done. There's another famous saying: if it wasn't for the last minute, nothing would ever get done. So humans can be motivated to, when Darth Vader came onto the Death Star in Return of the Jedi and said, "I need you to double your work," and the guy says, "Oh no, we can't. The Emperor will be here," and he says, "We shall redouble our efforts." Now, thankfully, NetApp is not the
I
emperor.
love that analogy, Alex.
Yeah.
I love that analogy.
I think the COVID might be the emperor, and that has certainly whipped everyone into shape. And I think it's good. I mean, I love the whole digital acceleration side of things. We all hate what the pandemic has done, but the way this is sped up, and even things like Zoom. I mean, some people are amazed to know that Zoom is a decade old. I think it just got invented for the pandemic, but They've celebrated their 10th birthday. Now, another question, obviously, with all of this change, people have come and gone into different jobs. There's a battle for developing and retaining talent in this current market. So with so many tech companies competing for a small pool of talent to hire, how is NetApp handling this?
Well, look, that's a topic that's pretty close to my heart. I think that in the current climate, one thing that I believe is that organizational culture matters. And here at NetApp, we believe that our values and our culture is just as important as the technology we develop for our customers. It helps us create a sense of purpose, and it drives the way in which we do business with each other and with our customers. And look, very quickly, if I can give a plug for NetApp, our values include embracing a growth mindset, acting as an owner, caring for each other and our community, and building a team that includes people of different backgrounds and circumstances. And I think in the current climate, culture matters because people want to be at an organization that aligns with their own ethics and their own beliefs, and they want to stay a part of it. So beyond the usual things such as compensation and benefits, I think organizational culture is something that business leaders should continue to focus on, because it really does form part of an employee's identity. whether they're in technology or retail or government or any industry.
So how can organizations work better with NetApp, with their own customers, with ever-changing internet speeds? What can organizations do better?
I think that one of the, certainly from my perspective right now, employee well-being is front and center, and the organizational culture is one part of it. But I think as we move past the pandemic, the ability for us to reach our office and our teams through a virtual medium creates an environment where our team members can work partly at home and partly in an office in a collaboration environment. And the other thing is, I think what we need to recognize is our team members are full of good ideas. So we should empower them to come up with solutions to existing issues and new issues that we'll encounter. And then also, we should recognize that each team member is unique in terms of their personal circumstances. So there's no one size fits all for all of our team members. We should empower them to be able to define how they work and where they work, provided that we are getting the outcomes as a business that we need from each of them. And then the other thing I think is training, to a point I'd raised earlier, that as we move past pandemic, the pandemic state, we should look to completely reskill our team members so that they're able to adopt and use digital tool sets in a way that makes them incredibly efficient and more innovative in their job.
Now, as we get towards the end of the interview, I always like to ask about you. And what is your memory of your first computer?
My first computer was a Commodore 64, which my parents purchased for me in, I believe it was 1986 or 87.
Yeah,
and
about the time.
Look, I've got to admit, Alex, I do yell at my boys for spending way too much time gaming, but back then in 1986, 87, I'm quite sure my brother and I were spending way too much time doing the same thing. And it was from there that I found myself interested in technology and computers. And I guess, the rest, as they say, is history. I, kind of pursued that passion as I grew older and, pursued that, that discipline into tertiary education. And yeah, that's how I ended up in technology and my first computer experience.
So is there, you mentioned you have spent a lot of time in NetApp, but is there anything else in between uni and NetApp that is part of your personal history in the world of tech?
Yeah, look, I did an engineering degree at Monash, and one of the things that really did interest me at that time was this concept of autonomous learning, which in the late 90s, early 2000s was something just not what it is today. And that some of the challenges at the time were limitations with compute and storage, but certainly there was a vision there of autonomous robots and autonomous learning systems. And then you fast forward to the 2020s, where we see this entire artificial intelligence and machine learning discipline takes center stage, driven really by the power of better software and highly scalable compute and storage. So it's very exciting to see that and actually be a part of it here at NetApp.
So how do you see NetApp evolving over the next couple of years? And where do you see NetApp in the industry in 2030 and beyond?
Look, I'd say the future is quite exciting for NetApp. And for me personally, I think technology will continue to augment the human workforce, I believe. And by 2025, the majority of the workforce will be the millennials. And a significant portion of that workforce will be millennial decision makers. So this is a highly technology savvy generation, and they will drive the next wave. And part of the next wave, if I were to pick out some exciting examples, is healthcare providers and physicians will be able to track an individual with a full history of medical care and allows you to hyper-personalize that for individuals. We'll see low-value work fully automated, particularly in industries such as manufacturing. We'll also see some autonomous vehicles hit the road, both the road and the air, and lower the instances of human-caused injuries and fatalities due to errors. I mean, there's tons of other examples that I could ramble on here, but from the workforce perspective, I think the workforce will become highly digitally literate, and they will be able to spin up their own ideas to augment and innovate an organisation they're working with, and bring new ideas to market at a rapid pace. And I guess from an Australian perspective, what I see is post-COVID, we've already seen working remotely is very, very possible. All you need is a good internet connection. And as we see the internet connectivity with advent of 5G and 6G roll out into Australia, we'll see future generations of workers not necessarily be in the office full time. They'll continue to be remote, and we'll be able to tap into talent anywhere in the world, not just in city centres. So that's really exciting to see from a NetApp perspective, as well as an industry perspective.
Yeah, I think despite COVID and all the craziness that's gone on with that, the future is definitely bright, and it's never been a more exciting time to be alive. And we're very lucky to be living now. And we're very lucky the pandemic didn't happen 20 years ago when we didn't have the infrastructure that we have today. Just talking on Zoom and Teams is just effortless. And
Absolutely.
It's a really wonderful thing. Now, my second last question is to ask you if you could please share the best advice you've ever received in life to help you get where you are today.
The best piece of advice, I'd say I've got a lot of good advice, but if I were to pick one, and it does really carry me through, is a comment made to me, which was, don't be a victim. And the context for that was really around a shift in mindset. So, we're constantly bombarded with issues and challenges in life, both professional and personal. And rather than get upset about it and feel sorry for yourself, it's time to move on and just deal with the change. So adapt and move forward. And I think that's a good piece of advice for everyone as we adapt to change at an accelerated pace. It is what it is. We've just got to adapt and deal with it. And that's really carried me through in many, many situations where I could be sitting there and feeling sorry for myself.
Yeah. Well, shifting perspective is usually what's required. Every problem is really an opportunity. And if you look at it in the right way, then you'll overcome it and find the next problem to be overcome.
Absolutely.
So what is your final message to iTWire viewers and readers, and to your current and future customers and partners?
My final message? I think I'd share some food for thought. That's not necessarily about technology specifically. It's the new age that we're in. The digital age, in my mind, is that the barrier to entry for new companies and new ideas, new technologies is significantly lower. If you think about life 30 years ago, if you had a new idea or you wanted to do something interesting, the barrier to entry into the market required some VC funding and a business plan, ability to hire some new people and fund technology investments. But today, the internet has really brought your customers directly to you. You can market directly to them. You can understand them, in a very personalized way. So this is a great thing for new entrants, but then a potential threat for existing organizations. The internet has democratized innovation. So what I'd say is it's okay to fail and fail fast, because you are in an age where anything is possible through cloud services and technology. It's the barrier, the cost of failure is far lower, but the benefits of success from a new idea is far more lucrative because of an expanded addressable market due to the internet age.
Yeah, I was just reading about how there's more unicorns, the business is valued at over $1 billion than ever before, which is another great sign of all of this becoming true, and the opportunities just wide open. Sorry.
Absolutely. No, I 100% agree with you, Alex. We're starting to see billion-dollar organizations come out of Australia, which really they are powered by technology platforms. So it's very exciting to see.
Well, Dhruv Dhumatkar, Director of Solutions Engineering at NetApp, thank you very much for your time. I hope we can speak again in the future, and I wish you the best of success.
It was exciting to meet you, Alex. Thanks very much for your time.
Great to meet you too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.